The Challenge by Gary Soto, 1993. Gary Soto is an American poet, novelist, and memoirist. In this short story, a boy tries to impress the new girl at his school. As you read, take notes on how Jose feels about Estella. For 3 weeks, Jose tried to get the attention of Estella, the new girl at his middle school. "She's cute," he said to himself when he first saw her in the cafeteria, unloading her lunch of 2 sandwiches, potato chips, a piece of cake wrapped in wax paper, and boxed juice from a brown paper bag. Man, can she grub! On the way home from school, he walked through the alleys of his town, Fresno, kicking cans. He was lost in a dream, trying to figure out a way to make Estella notice him. He thought of tripping in front of her while she was leaving her math class, but he had already tried that with a girl in 6th grade. All he did was rip his pants and bruise his knee, which kept him from playing in the championship soccer game. And that girl had just stepped over him as he lay on the ground, the shame of rejection reddening his face. He thought of going up to Estella and saying, in his best James Bond voice, "Camacho, Jose Camacho, at your service." He imagined she would say, "Righto," and together they would go off and talk in code. He even tried doing his homework. Estella was in his history class, and so he knew she was as bright as a cop's flashlight shining in your face. While they were studying Egypt, Jose amazed the teacher, Mrs. Flores, when he scored 20 out of 20 on a quiz, and then 18 out of 20 when she retested him the same day because she thought that he had cheated. "Mrs. Flores, I studied hard. De veras. You can call my mom," he argued. His feelings hurt. And he had studied so much that his mother had asked, "¿Qué pasó? What's wrong?" "I'm going to start studying," he'd answered. His mother bought him a lamp because she didn't want him to strain his eyes. She even fixed him hot chocolate and watched her son learn about the Egyptian god Osiris, about papyrus and mummification. The mummies had scared her so much that she had heated up a second cup of chocolate to soothe herself. But when the quizzes had been returned and Jose bragged, "Another A+," Estella didn't turn her head and ask, "Who's the brilliant boy?" She just stuffed her quiz into her backpack and left the classroom, leaving Jose behind to retake the test. One weekend, he had wiped out while riding his bike, popping up over curbs with his eyes closed. He somersaulted over his handlebars and saw a flash of shooting stars as he felt the slap of his skin against the asphalt. Blood rushed from his nostrils like twin rivers. He bicycled home, his blood-darkened shirt pressed to his nose. When he examined his face in the mirror, he saw that he had a scrape on his chin, and he liked that. He thought Estella might pity him. In history class, she would cry, "Oh, what happened?" And then he would talk nonsense about a fight with 3 vatos. But Estella had been absent the Monday and Tuesday after his mishap. By the time she returned on Wednesday, his chin had nearly healed. Jose figured out another way to get to know her. He had noticed the grimy, sweat-blackened handle of a racket poking out of her backpack. He snapped his fingers and said to himself, "Racquetball, I'll challenge her to a game." He approached her during lunch. She was reading from her science book and biting into her second sandwich, which was thick with slabs of meat, cheese, and a blood-red tomato. "Hi," Jose said, sitting across the table from her. "How do you like our school?" Estella swallowed, cleared her throat, drank from her milk carton until it collapsed and said, "It's okay, but the hot water doesn't work in the girls' showers." "It doesn't work in ours either," he remarked, trying to push the conversation along. He continued, "Where are you from?" "San Diego," she said. She took another monstrous bite of her sandwich, which amazed Jose and made him think of his father, a carpenter, who could eat more than anyone Jose knew. Jose, eager to connect, took a deep breath and said, "I see that you play racquetball. You want to play a game?" "Are you good?" Estella asked flatly. She picked up a slice of tomato that had slid out of her sandwich. Pretty good, he said without thinking as he slipped into a lie. I won a couple of tournaments. He watched as the tomato slice slithered down Estella's throat. She wiped her mouth and said, Sure. How about after school on Friday? That's tomorrow, Jose said. That's right. Today's Thursday and tomorrow's Friday. She flattened the empty milk carton with her fist, slapped her science book closed, and hurled the carton and her balled-up lunch bag at the plastic-lined garbage can. What's your name? Camacho. Jose Camacho. I'm Estella. My friends call me Stinger. Stinger? Yeah, Stinger. I'll meet you at the courts at 3:45. She got up and headed toward the library. After school, Jose pedaled his bike over to his Uncle Freddy's house. His uncle was 16, only 3 years older than Jose. It made Jose feel awkward when someone, usually a girl, asked, Who's that hunk? And he would have to answer, My uncle. Freddy! Jose yelled, skidding to a stop in the driveway. Freddy was in the garage lifting weights. He was dressed in sweats and a Raiders sweatshirt, the hem of his t-shirt sticking out in a fringe. He bench pressed 180 pounds, then put the weights down and said, Hey, dude. Freddy, I need to borrow your racquetball racket, Jose said. Freddy rubbed his sweaty face on the sleeve of his sweatshirt. I didn't know you played. I don't. I got a game tomorrow. But you don't know how to play. Jose had been worrying about this on his bike ride over. He had told Estella that he had won tournaments. I'll learn, Jose said. In one day? Get serious. It's against a girl. So? She'll probably whip you 21 to nada. No way. But Jose's mind twisted with worry. What if she did, he asked himself. What if she whipped him through and through? He recalled her crushing the milk carton with one blow of her fist. He recalled the sandwiches she downed at lunch. Still, he had never encountered a girl who was better than he was at sports, except for Dolores Ramirez, who could hit homers with the best of them. Uncle Freddy pulled his racket from the garage wall. Then he explained to Jose how to grip the racket. He told him that the game was like handball, that the play was off the front, the ceiling, and the sidewalls. Whatever you do, don't look behind you. The ball comes back fast. You can get your ojos knocked out. Yeah, I got it, Jose said vaguely, feeling the weight of the racket in his hand. He liked how it felt when he pounded the sweet spot of the strings against his palm. Freddy resumed lifting weights and Jose biked home, swinging the racket as he rode. That night, after dinner, Jose went outside and asked his father, Dad, has a girl ever beaten you at anything? His father was watering the grass, his shirt off and a stub of cigarette dangling from his mouth. His pale belly hung over his belt, just slightly like a deflated ball. Only talking, he said. They can out-talk a man any day of the week. No, in sports. His father thought for a while and then said, No, I don't think so. His father's tone of voice didn't encourage Jose. So he took the racket and a tennis ball and began to practice against the side of the garage. The ball raced away like a rat. He retrieved it and tried again. Every time, he hit it either too softly or too hard, and he couldn't get the rhythm of a rally going. It's hard, he said to himself. But then he remembered that he was playing with a tennis ball, not a racquetball. He assumed that he would play better with the real ball. The next day, school was as dull as usual. He took a test in history and returned to his regular score of 12 out of 20. Mrs. Flores was satisfied. I'll see you later, Estella said, hoisting her backpack onto one shoulder, the history quiz crumpled in her fist. Okay, Estella, he said. Stinger, she corrected. Yes, Stinger, 3:45. Jose was begging to wonder whether he really liked her. Now she seemed abrupt, not cute. She was starting to look like Dolores, Hinton Spit Ramirez. Tough. After Jose walked slowly to the outdoor, three-walled courts, They were empty, except for a gang of sparrows pecking at an old hamburger wrapper. Jose practiced hitting the tennis ball against the wall. It was too confusing. The ball would hit the front wall, then ricochet off the side wall. He spent most of his time running after the ball or cursing himself for bragging that he had won tournaments. Estella arrived, greeting Jose with a jerk of her chin and a, "Hey, dude." She was dressed in white sweats. A pair of protective goggles dangled around her neck like a necklace, and she wore sweatbands on both wrists. She opened a can of balls and rolled one out into her palm, squeezing it so tightly that her forearm rippled with muscle. When she smacked the ball against the wall so hard that the echo hurt his ears, Jose realized that he was in trouble. He felt limp as a dead fish. Estella hit the ball repeatedly. When she noticed that Jose was just standing there, his racket in one hand and a dog-slobbered tennis ball in the other, she asked, "Aren't you going to practice?" "I forgot my balls at home," he said. "Oh, help yourself." She pointed with the racket toward the can. Jose took a ball, squeezed it, and bounced it once. He was determined to give Estella a show. He bounced it again, swung with all his might, and hit it out of the court. "Oops," he said. "I'll go get it, Stinger." He found the ball in the gutter, splotched with mud that he had wiped off on his pants. When he returned to the court, Estella had peeled off her sweats and was working a pair of knee pads up her legs. Jose noticed that her legs were bigger than his, and they quivered like the flanks of a thoroughbred horse. "You ready?" she asked, adjusting her goggles over her eyes. "I have to leave at 5. "Almost," he said. He took off his shirt, then put it back on when he realized how skinny his chest was. Yeah, I'm ready. You go first." Estella, sizing him up, said, "No, you go first." Jose decided to accept the offer. He figured he needed all the help he could get. He bounced the ball and served it into the ground twice. "You're out," she said, scooping the ball up onto her racket and walking briskly to the service box. Jose wanted to ask why, but he kept quiet. After all, he thought, I am the winner of several tournaments. 0-0, Estella said. Then she served the ball, which ricocheted off the front and side walls. Jose swung wildly and missed by at least a foot. Then he ran after the ball, which had rolled out of the court onto the grass. He returned it to Estella and said, "Nice, Estella." "Stinger." "Yeah, stinger." Estella called out, 1-0. She wound up again and sizzled the ball right at Jose's feet. He swung and hit his kneecap with the racket. The pain jolted him like a shock of electricity as he went down, holding his knee and grimacing. Estella chased the ball for him. "Can you play?" she asked. He nodded as he rose to his feet. 2-0, she said, again bouncing the ball off the front wall, this time slower so that Jose swung before the ball reached his racket. He swung again, the racket spinning like a whirlwind. The ball sailed slowly past him, and he had to chase it down again. "I guess that's 3-0, right?" Jose said lamely. "Right." Estella lobbed the ball. As it came down, Jose swung hard. His racket slipped from his fingers and flew out of the court. "Oops," he said. The racket was caught on the top of the chain-link fence surrounding the courts. For a moment, Jose thought of pulling the racket down and running home. But he had to stick it out. Anyway, he thought, my backpack is at the court. 4-0, Estella called when she saw Jose running back to the court, his chest heaving. She served again, and Jose, closing his eyes, connected. The ball hit the wall, and for 3 seconds they had a rally going. But then Estella moved in and killed the ball with the low corner shot. 5-0, she said. "It's getting cold. Let me get my sweats back on." She slipped into her sweats and threw off her sweatbands. Jose thought about asking to borrow the sweatbands because he had worked up a lather of sweat. But his pride kept him quiet. Estella served again and again until the score was 17-0, and Jose was ragged from running. He wished the game would end. He wished he would score just 1 point. He took off his shirt and said, "Hey, you're pretty good." Estela served again, gently this time, and Jose managed to return the ball to the front wall. Estela didn't go after it, even though she was just a couple of feet from the ball. "Nice corner shot," she lied. "Your serve." Jose served the ball and, hunching over with his racket poised, took crab steps to the left, waiting for the ball to bounce off the front wall. Instead, he heard a thunderous smack and felt himself leap like a trout. The ball had hit him in the back, and it stung viciously. He ran off the court and threw himself on the grass, grimacing from the pain. It took him 2 minutes to recover, time enough for Estela to take a healthy swig from the bottle of Gatorade in her sport bag. Finally, through his teeth, he muttered, "Good shot, Stinger." "Sorry," Estela said. "You moved into my lane. Serve again." Jose served and then cowered out of the way. His racket held to his face for protection. She fired the ball back, clean and low. And once again, she was standing at the service line calling, "Service!" Uncle Freddy was right. He had lost 21 to nada. After a bone-jarring handshake and a pat on his aching back from Estela, he hobbled to his uncle's house, feeling miserable. Only 3 weeks ago, he'd been hoping that Estela, Stinger, might like him. Now he hoped she would stay away from him. Uncle Freddy was in the garage lifting weights. Without greeting him, Jose hung the racket back on the wall. Uncle Freddy lowered the weights, sat up, and asked, "So how'd it go?" Jose didn't feel like lying. He lifted his t-shirt and showed his uncle the big red mark the ball had raised on his back. "She's bad." "It could have been your face," Freddy said as he wiped away sweat and lay back down on his bench. "Too bad." Jose sat on a pile of bundled newspapers, hands in his lap. When his uncle finished his reps, Jose got up slowly and peeled the weights down to 60 pounds. It was his turn to lift. He needed strength to mend his broken heart and for the slight chance that Stinger might come back, looking for another victory.